Canto 1, Chapter 8, chapter entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit Saved. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 19. Maya Javanika Channam Agyadhokshajam Avyayam Nalakshase Murhadrisha Nato Natyadharo Yatha.
Hare Krishna. Text 19. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the certain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer. Is not recognized.
I didn't hear the end of the translation. Is it over? Did you say the whole translation?
Yes, I did. Do you want me to repeat it?
No, it's fine. Okay, text 20. Tatha paramaham muninam amalatmanam bhakti yoga vidhanatham katham pashyemahi striyaha.
Translation. You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service onto the hearts of advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators, who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How now can we women know you perfectly?
Text 21. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Translation. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses.
Text 22. Namaha Pankajanaභaya Namaha Pankajamaline Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajankraye.
Translation. My respectful obeisances are unto the Lord. O Lord, who has a banner, is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus and whose feet are engraved with lotuses.
Text 23. Yatha Rishikesha Khalena Devaki Kansena Ruddhati Chiram Sucharpita Vimochitaham cha sahatmaja vibho Tvayaiva nathena muhur vipadganat.
Translation. O Rishikesh, Master of the senses and Lord of lords, you have released your mother, Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious king Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers.
Text 24. Vishan Mahagneha Purushada Darshanad Asat Sabhaya Vanavasa Krichrataha Mridhe Mitene Maharathastrato Dronyastataschasmahare Bhirakshitaha.
Translation. My dear Krishna, your lordship has protected us from a poisoned cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the various vicious assembly, from suffering during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwadhamma.
Text 25. Vipada santu tashasva tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yat syat apunar bhavadarshanam.
Translation. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths.
Text 26. Janmaishvarya shruta shribhir edhamana madah puman naivarhatya bhidhatum vai twamakinchana gocharam.
Translation. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling.
Text 27. Namo kinchana vittaya nivritta gunavrittaye atmaramaya shantaya kaivalya pataye namaha.
I cannot see the translation of text 27. Thank you. Translation. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of material impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and master of the monists.
Text 28. Manye tvam kalamishanam anadi nidhanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yad mitha kalihi.
Translation. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The decision between the dissensions between living beings are due to the social intercourse.
Text 29. Naveda kaschid bhagavamshchikirshitam tavehamanasya nrinam vidambanam nayasya kaschid daitosti karhichid dveshaschat vishamamati nrinam.
Translation. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial.
Text 30. Janma karma cha vishwatman ajasya karturatmanaha tiryan nirshishu yadashu tad atyanta vidambanam.
Translation. Of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend among animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering.
631. Gopya dede tvahi krita gasidamatavat yate dashasru kalilanjana sambhamaksham Vaktram niniya bhaya bhavanaya sthitasya samam vimohayati bhir apiyad vibheti.
Translation. My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflowed with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes.
Mascara, okay.
From your eyes. And you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me.
Text 32. केचिदहुरजं जातं पुण्यश्लोकस्य कीर्तये यदौ प्रियस्यान्ववाह्ये मलयस्येव चन्दनम्.
Translation. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills.
Text 33. Apare vasudevasya devakyam yachito bhyagat ajastam asya kshemaya vadhaya cha suradvisham.
Translation. Others say that since both Yashudeva and Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn. Yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods.
Text 34. Bharavatara bhuvo nava ivo dadho siddhantya bhuri bharena jato hyatma bhuvarthitaha.
Translation. Others say that the world being overburdened like a boat at sea is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble.
Text 35. Bhavesmin klishyamananam avidya kama karma bhihi shravana smaranarhani karishan iti kechana.
Translation. And yet others say that you appeared from the sake of rejuvenation and the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation.
Text 36. Shrinvanti gayanti grinanti abhikshanashaha smaranti nandanti tavehitam janaha taiva pashyantya tavakam bhava pravaho paramam padambujam.
Translation. O Krishna, those who consciously hear, continuously hear, chant and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. Thank you for letting me read, Mataji, and I'm sorry about my mistakes.
Hare Krishna, it was wonderful recitations. Thank you, Mataji, and thank you, dear Neonika. Lovely recitations.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Manu Prabhuji, are you here now?
Hare Krishna, Jyoti Mataji. I can't see Prabhuji's name in the participants list.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Oh, yes, he has just joined.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I
thank
can
you.
see.
Hare Krishna. Number of references.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Have we Have we finished reciting shlokas now?
Yes, Prabhuji, and I've made you host as well now.
Very much. Thank you very much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayesu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8. Today's verse is verse number 27. Namo Kinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavritta E Atmaramaya Santaya Atmaramaya Shantaya Kevalya Pataye Namaha. Namo Akanchina Vittaya Nivritta Gunavritta E Atmaramaya Shantaya Kevalya Pataye Namaha. Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavritta E Atmaramaya Shantaya Kevalya Pataye Namaha. Synonyms. Namaha. All obeisances unto you. Akinchan Vittaya. Unto the property of the materially impoverished. Nivritta. Completely transcendental to the actions of the material modes. Guna. Material modes. Vritta affection. Atma aramaya. Atma ramaya. One who is self-satisfied. Atma ramaya. That's the pronunciation. Atma ramaya. One who is self-satisfied. Shantaya. The most gentle. Kevalya pataye. Unto the master of the monastery. Namaha. Bowing down. Translation. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material mode of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the monast. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All living being is finished as soon as, a living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world, not for nothing, but for something tangible and spiritual value. Srila Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of big Jamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. Devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There's a nice story about Srila Sanatan Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked Sanatan for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatan Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees, just to convince them that material hankering and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relationship with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatan Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of 15 cents. And there are so many unwanted things, which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, and thus, the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance of spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All his acts and deeds, which are exhibited even in this material world, are spiritual and without affection for the modes of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all his acts, even his appearance and disappearance, in and out of the material world are transcendental. And one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering after and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and the devotees are called Nivritta Gunavritti. The perfect Nivritta Gunavritti is the Supreme Lord, because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees and the devotees are the property of the Lord, reciprocally, the devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty, or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendently attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atmaram, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord, called the Brahman Jyoti, but the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. Om Jnanam Timirindasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamanyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Vishnapadam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpataru Kripa Sindhu Bhai Pacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are here in the chapter where it's entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit Saved. So Queen Kunti started to speak to Lord in a very emotional and in a very prayerful mood. After Lord has compassionately saved the child in the womb of Uttara. So from text 18, these prayers started, where Mother Kunti started to establish the position of Lord Krishna as the personality of Godhead, who is completely unaffected by the modes of material nature, who is present everywhere within our hearts and everybody's hearts. Who is present but cannot be observed and stays invisible by the foolish, just like the thread in the necklace of pearls cannot be visible, but is the prime reason of the existence of the necklace. Similarly, Lord is the prime reason of the existence of the material nature, but he is not visible to the foolish, Mudha. This way, Mother Kunti is continuously praying the Lord in various ways. Sometimes she's calling her master of the senses, and other times she's calling out the pastimes of Krishna, where he saved Mother Devaki and killed Kamsa. She's constantly remembering her own time, how Krishna has saved herself and family from all kinds of calamities that were happening. And because those calamities, Queen Kunti was continuously remembering Krishna, and she was therefore praying, if the calamities bring Krishna to me, let that be my fate. Let the calamities come upon me so I can embrace Krishna's presence. Krishna's presence. Because if Krishna is present, all the calamities disappear. And then Mother Kunti is continuously describing how Lord Krishna cannot be approached by those things which are supposedly called material progress, such as respectful parentage, great opulence, high education, body beauty. If somebody possesses this, they get possessed by it in such a way that they are unable to call out Lord with their sincere feelings against someone who is going through the endless calamities, and that person can feelingly, sincerely call out Krishna's name. So the previous verse to this verse, text 27, Tam Akinchana Gochara, that verse is also very famous. And these both verses are very, very related to each other. If you see this verse, Janmeshwara Shrutra Shubhir Edhaman Madha Puman Naivarati Abhidhatam Vai Tam Akinchana Gocharam. When you hear tapes of Srila Prabhupada's lectures, Srila Prabhupada is constantly and many times keep on saying this line, Tam Akinchana Gocharam, Tam Akinchana Gocharam. Akinchan means, it is explained in the verse that we read, somebody who has no material possession or somebody who's completely materially exhausted, Akinchana. To Gocharam, one who is approached easily by the materially exhausted man. And in today's verse, we see that how Srila Prabhupada has given the entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness in a very deep manner in this purport, very long purport. I was reading for 12-13 minutes. It's really long purport. And we can see how he's pouring his heart into this purport, sentences after sentences. And this verse primarily is saying the same thing. It is saying two things. One is that, O Lord, that you are property of materially impoverished. And second, it's being said that you are beyond the modes of nature. And because you're born, somebody may think, oh, If he has nothing of the nature of this matter, how dissatisfied he must be. So Mother Kunti is saying, but you are self-satisfied. Therefore, all those who are desiring to be elevating themselves from this material platform are wanting to be you are wanting to be merging in the Brahman effulgence of yourself, monist. Mm. So it's amazing to see that Srila Prabhupada is relating so much with these two prayers of Mother Kunti. When I was reading the purport, and before me, Prabhupada's life was going through. You are the property of who is materially exhausted. You are the one who can be approached by those who are materially impoverished. So in the purport, when we read, we can see Prabhupada has given beautiful purport and examples of our acharyas like Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, how they have really left all the opulence in their heart when they felt the joy of Krishna consciousness, or they felt the intensity to be with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One by one, they left all their material engagements, and with those material engagements, they left the material opulences and came into a situation where they possessed nothing of this material world. But Srila Prabhupada beautifully mentions that those devotees who do not possess anything material possess something most precious, and that most precious thing is the is the possession of the Lord's love in their heart, or Lord's bhakti in their heart. That is what they possess. So, so citing these examples, I was so relating to Srila Prabhupada's life himself, and a personality who was definitely in a state where he could have made a lot of success, but for a reason, Krishna somehow or the other, to make his beautiful devotee so famous, brought him to a situation where one can say that he became materially impoverished. But although he appeared to be materially impoverished, he was so jubilantly fiery in his heart to spread the Krishna consciousness movement, the mission of his spiritual master. He met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur only a couple of times, but the seed of Krishna consciousness was sown so deep and strong that it actually did not matter to him whether his Gurudev was present before him physically. People will dwindle away in such circumstances and lack of association. But we can see how Srila Prabhupada was almost single-handedly and all alone. Where was his association? His association was his Guru Maharaj and his instruction. Such amazing, astonishing example in this age of Kali, where very soon the modes of nature can grip one completely, so they can forget anything to do with this spirituality, what to talk about chasing the mission of spiritual life. So Srila Prabhupada is very, very emotionally describing so many examples of verse. And because by the time when he was writing this Srimad Bhagavatam, all these chapters, he has already traveled the journey of what is being described in these verses. Tam akanchana gocharam, So going back to this purpose, yeah, Srila Prabhupada has explained this very beautifully. He has said, such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. Sorry, there's some sound. I'm going to mute. Sometimes by accident, mics get open, so please don't mind. I've just muted. Srila Prabhupada extrapolated the situation to the entire material civilization, who is constantly endeavoring to become materially accomplished, to do something that their predecessors have never done or dreamt about, to find such sort of innovations which are actually capable of destroying the entire mankind, thinking that this advancement is something that is going to be very helpful. So all of these activities, because they are material, hence temporary, hence they are not going to help someone into their material life, a spiritual life. If something that does not help you in achieving or accomplishing your goal and is in your way, is nothing but a stumbling block. Hence, Prabhupada has mentioned that any material civilization, advancement of material vision, or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. He's saying human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization. He has cited that most important activity of human life is to progress in spiritual life, to differentiate between the matter and the spirit. If one is not able to do or achieve this one vision, that he is temporary or she's temporary, and the material body is going to be decaying in due course of time, anything to do with this material body and anything that is related to this material body will all be finished. Because when his life is finished, the vision is closed. Material vision is finished. All is left behind is a soul, which is then taken to the next destination according to the desires developed in this particular lifetime, desires developed in the mind. So mind very nicely takes that soul into the next destination, a next body, going through the next phase of material life. So this whole thing about possessing, thinking of feeling oneself to be very secured, feeling oneself to be very happy. It is just a notion that I will become happy and I have more. Even though there are those who have lot, still there are those who do not have that lot and feel the one who have lots is happier. But those who are perceived to having lots are looking at others who have even more. And they are thinking, I am not happy, but I am sure those who have more than me, they are certainly very happy. And once I get there, I will also become happy. And this way, there are series of people from beginning to end who are thinking that anybody who has more than them is happier. At the same time, those who have more than them are also thinking the same thing. Hence, everybody is actually miserable, unhappy, dissatisfied, trying for material happiness, but nothing that they can grab here. In contrast to that, Mother Kunti is saying that, oh my Lord, you are fully satisfied. You're always satisfied. You don't need any of this material possessions. Atma Ramya, Atma Ramaya. You are fully satisfied. somebody, those who have material, strong material conditioning, they will not be able to even appreciate what is being said here, because for them everything is to do with this body, and when this body dies, everything dies. They are functioning under the control of modes of nature, hence they're completely influenced, just like a drunkard man who doesn't know what he's doing, or like a madman who's running here and there, hither and thither, and thinking this is nice, this is real, but not knowing his own identity, not knowing where he's going and where he's coming from, not knowing that whatever he's doing is only going to harm him eventually, and he's going to be in this mad hospital or mad material nature forever. So the devotees of the Lord, they are called completely satisfied because they're detached from the material energy. Not that they, Srila Prabhupada has beautifully explained the distinction between possessing or possessions and those who are renunciates. It is said that they do not have possessions. At the same time, it is said that they don't need to differentiate, or they have the consciousness, reach to a level of consciousness where they start, they seem to, or they're beginning to, or they completely lose the power of discrimination between material and spiritual, because they find everything in relationship with Krishna. Hence, for them, everything is spiritual. Everything is spiritual because everything is part and parcel of Krishna. And because they don't possess anything for their own enjoyment, hence they are not controlled by material nature. They can distinctly see the modes of nature are functioning, and they're not, because they're not controlled, they're controlled by Krishna. They can easily not possess anything and see those things which are around, which appears to be material, as spiritual, because anything which is in the relationship with Krishna is nothing but spiritual. However, just to give lessons to the conditioned soul, they make such distinctions so that there are good examples set before the conditioned souls. So this way we can see how Srila Prabhupada is beautifully explaining the process of devotion. Process of devotion is facilitated by material impoverishment. Not that you become a destitute, but the feeling that I do not have this, this is not my possession, and not just saying it, but feeling it genuinely within the heart. This is not my possession. This house is not my possession. This car is not my possession. This relationship that I have with my children, my wife, my friend, is not my possessions. And this can only happen if one do not think himself to be the doer of any activities. And one who understands that even though he wants to enjoy, he cannot enjoy material energy. All he can do is just suffer in this material energy. And because he has no ability to enjoy this material energy, everything is happening by the will of the Lord. And surrendering to the Lord is the ultimate benediction that one can give to oneself. So these feelings of complete surrender to Krishna can invoke the feeling of detachment to the material world. If such feelings are not arising in the heart, then one can understand that their bhakti is still karma mishrit bhakti. They're approaching the Lord only to get relief from the material miseries. And once those material miseries are gone, those devotees fall back into the old pattern of life. Whereas Prabhupada has mentioned here that pure devotees of the Lord, pure devotees, they who do not want anything from the Lord, who want to just serve the Lord, who wants to have relationship with the Lord. Having relationship with the Lord, Lord is Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not possible to have relationship with the Lord. I was just sharing a small clip by His Holiness Bhakti Charan Maharaj, where he was saying that Supreme Personality of Godhead choose to become a coward boy in Vrindavan. You cannot have relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is very challenging. It is very difficult. But you can certainly have a relationship with a coward boy. Huh? Similarly, you cannot become a you cannot be superior to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but you can be superior to a coward boy by becoming his father or mother. You cannot be a friend to a personality of Godhead, but you can certainly become a friend of a cowherd boy. And this way, Krishna gives opportunity to his pure devotees, not the mixed devotees, the pure devotees who are unalloyed devotees of Krishna, who do not approach Krishna to mitigate misery or poverty of the world. And those who do not, so they go towards Krishna not because they are suffering or they want matter. They go towards Krishna because they want Krishna, just for Krishna. So it's a beautiful verse, therefore, and it's very relevant to all our lives. It is focusing on akinchana vittaya. Akinchan, you are the property of materially impoverished. So we all go into situations in our lives. Life is a cyclical path. We are enjoying or suffering the results of our past lives. Sometimes we become happy, like in the ocean waves. When the wave is going high, we become very happy. Everything seems to be going right, hunky-dory. And when something doesn't go right, then we all feel sad, or grieved, or stressed, or in anxieties, uncertainties. Sometimes it can be relationship, other times it can be careers, other time it can be finances, businesses, and yet it can be health, so many things. And so we get the opportunity of being in the situation of being materially impoverished. And we can take advantage. Akinchana vittaya. You are the property of the materially impoverished. We can pray to Krishna in those situations. Of course, in every situation, but specifically in those situations, we are in anxiety, we are in distress, not wanting the relief from material nature, but taking shelter of Krishna. My dear Lord, please awaken this sleeping, dormant love in our hearts for you, so that we can completely be surrendered unto you. We can qualify to uh, to 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 be part and parcel of of the of the loving service and devotion in unto your lotus feet. And in this way, we can also pray like Mother Kunti is praying over here. So with this, I stop here. It's 8:40. If there are any comments or questions, we can discuss. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Manu Prabhu, and our pranams, Vishwapad.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes, I can hear you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very, very much for a really wonderful class. This is one of the deepest purports in this section. It's really wonderful. A lot of nectar in here. A couple of things, Prabhuji. Firstly, I think you mentioned, I think I may be wrong, but I believe you mentioned that by the time Prabhupada was writing this section, he had already traveled and established ISKCON. Actually, I think he was, before he left for the Jaluduta, he left with the first canto in 3 parts, in 3 volumes. He'd already written the first canto in India, in Vrindavan, and he traveled with the first canto. So when he wrote this, actually, he hadn't already had his experiences in the US. It was prior to all of that. So I think that, if I'm not mistaken that.
That's perfectly right, Prabhu. I think I'm not sure what I said, but I think I was meaning to say that Srila Prabhupada has experienced the impoverishment.
Oh yes, yes, of course. I thought you meant his experience,
Yeah.
the experience of
He
the whole.
experienced the impoverishment when he was writing these books and he was writing these purports.
Yes.
Therefore, he could relate to such deep, emotions. I mean, if I would have read this verse and I had no understanding of the purport, I had no hands-on to this purport, I would have not been able to appreciate what Prabhupada has said. You're right, actually, Prabhupada wrote these books before he traveled. Canto 1 he wrote before, yeah, you're correct.
Okay. Second question, how do we align the fact that we read here and we continuously read here that material opulence is an impediment for spiritual progress in many respects. Of course, there are exceptions. Devotees can be gifted with sort of Pundarika Vidya Nidhi was very much a stately man, but he was also a great devotee of Krishna. That didn't disqualify him. So it depends on the mood of the devotee. But in general, that is correct. In Satyug, of course, and Dwarpa Yuga and Treta Yuga, there were significantly more opulences in people's lifestyles, and yet they were significantly more spiritually endowed. Whereas the more materially impoverished we've become in Kali Yuga, we've also become significantly spiritually impoverished. So how do we reconcile that disparity in what we learn compared to what actually the Yuga cycles tell us from historic understanding, that there was far greater material opulence, but there was also far greater spiritual awareness and commitment?
So very good question, actually. And it's a difficult one to ponder upon, but I will try. What answer I'm getting from my heart right now is that in previous ages, the dharma was very powerful because they were following Varna and ashram system, they're following Vedic culture. Hence, the opulence was very high as well. Because material opulence, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, is the direct result of dharma. Artha is the direct result of dharma. Now, this dharma is different from what Prabhupada is mentioning here, pure devotional service. So we have to just understand that. So that kind of dharma was there, hence there was so much of opulence. And so dharma and opulence were going hand in hand. Now, in Kali Yuga, there is no dharma, or dharma has really declined and continue to decline, and therefore opulence is also continuously declining. So I'm differentiating, Prabhu, right now into dharma and devotional service. So even though one can have dharma, one may not have a high level of devotion or devotional service attitude, or having a desire of pure devotees of the Lord. So pure devotees of the Lord are rare, and they are present by the will of the Lord in any of the yugas, as we can see right now. Before us we have Srila Prabhupada. Prior to that, so many acharyas, etc. And in Kali Yuga, we can see that Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of pure devotees mentioned in there. Similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are pure devotees mentioned in those ages. So pure devotees, however, are rare. The only reason we have insight or visibility of these pure devotees because their activities are recorded in these scriptures that we are able to get our hands on. Hence, we are feeling, wow, this is nice. There were so many pure devotees before. We have pure devotees now. So, Prabhu, am I getting somewhere with your in your thought of line right now? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, wonderful, wonderful response and answer. So thank you. Yes, that makes that makes sense. And so, but I mean, one still grapples with the fact that in this age of impoverishment, we should have theoretically a higher level of surrender, but we are going in the negative direction with the level of impoverishment there is in the world today. There should be a higher level of spirituality, because in those circumstances one should be turning to Krishna, yet we turn to other material enjoyments instead, which is counterintuitive from what we've learned. But yes, I mean, I fully accept your answer as being very enlightening. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was an attempt. We can think a bit more on this and come up with some more thinking around it. But yeah, pure devotion is really difficult to, Prabhupada has specifically mentioned, and I have read it many times today when I was reading the purport and before, he's mentioning not the mixed devotee, not the mixed devotee. He's again mentioning pure devotees. Lord is reciprocal to pure devotees. He's mentioning that Lord is beyond material modes of nature, and so is pure devotees of the Lord are material nature, beyond material nature, but not karma mishra devotees. So this pure devotion is very, very rare in whatever age we are in. But those who are driven by desires, obviously they are also less. But we can see in Kali Yuga, people who are driven by material desires, they have invented their own gods, you see. So they are not following actual dharma the way they should have followed from Vedic culture. They would have got opulences. But because they are materially impoverished and they think they are becoming spiritual, but they are going to so-called invented gods where they feel that they'll get relief and they'll get more and more material opulences. Like in previous ages, they would perform proper dharma to get material opulences. So that you would see in Kali Yuga, so much is increasing that people are misled, and because they want to be cheated, so there is a cheater and a cheated. There's a combination of that. So we definitely see thousands and thousands of followers of something else who they believe would give them relief, who they believe, because of the absence of dharma, that something else has taken the position of dharma in their minds, which is not dharma, because of the influence of Kali. Okay, there are some comments here, but no question. Thank you for all your comments. Okay, is there any other thing to say, or we should close the session today? Thank you for your question, Prabhuji. No obeisances. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thanks for a brilliant class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare